Alright, so I'm finally ready to talk about the most recent Fire Emblem Engage chapters I've done. As I've stated previously, I don't know if I'm the only one like this, but when I'm playing a game that I really enjoy and I know it's about to end, I'll start dragging my feet and really trying to stretch it out, which is why this part is a bit later than usual. Also, sort of the timing of them announcing and releasing the DLC sort of gave me a good excuse, I guess, for a couple week break to sort of come back to all of that. And the final chapter, which is the only base game thing I really have left. On top of that, I really just wasn't sure I really had a lot to say about the most recent missions either. I'm actually sort of looking them up now because it's been a couple weeks since I've actually done them, but a common theme is that the maps have been really fun. Something I feel like these last few maps have kind of done a bit more is sort of almost force you to divide your team up and take on different sections, and you almost kind of wind up managing two, or in the one mission, three different battles, I guess. And I don't know, sometimes that can get a little frustrating, but in these cases, things were split up pretty evenly, right from the start, really. It's not like you just had one or two units that sort of went off and you were trying to collect something or take out a couple extra units, and then things get wacky. There's reinforcements, or they were really needed on another side of the map. Not really like that, as long as you sort of plan it out right, which I think the battle preparations gave you a pretty good idea of what you needed to do. Some interesting new gimmicks, nothing too crazy or unfair, but a nice challenge. Particularly chapter 23 and 24, you just sort of have to avoid certain areas at certain points to avoid getting moved around or taking damage. I don't remember anything particularly with chapter 25. I think it was just sort of a bigger castle-esque map. I guess overall, that one was a little more forgettable than the other two. But still, a good map. And the other two, though, may have been some of my favorites in the entire game, which is good when I keep saying that part after part, that it just keeps getting better and better. I think Marth's Paralogue was the only one I did that I haven't talked about. I was a little confused. I thought there was technically two Aleer ones, one for the Pact Ring and one for, like, some sort of bonus with the Engage rings or something, but that wasn't the case. It was only the Marth one left. I think it's based off like the very first area in the original Fire Emblem. I don't really know that game too well, but I have seen the first mission in like another castle-esque setting, and I think it was pretty similar. The one thing I kind of remember is it got kind of wacky at the end, because there's just sort of a narrow passage, and then you have Marth charging at you, and I think I was using different spellcasters and just ranged weapons to sort of attack people on the other end of the wall, but sort of not letting them free past that chamber, past that narrow passage I was blocking off. The only other specific thing I remember from my battles is I think it was chapter 24, where just some units had a lot of range, and then some of my teams were advancing quicker than others. So I remember just sort of spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to sort of box in the enemy from the three different sides you had going, while, just avoiding some of those massively ranged attacks. As for the story, which is a bit of a controversial point of this game, I think this is diving into spoilers too, obviously. You pretty much end all of the four Hounds stuff. I'm sort of mixed on the way it ended. I actually kind of liked how they try to make us, a little sympathetic towards Gris and Zephyia, as we sort of right at the end sort of see a little more about their motivations and stuff. I don't know if that could have been better to unveil earlier, to make the situation and maybe these battles feel a little more tragic, I guess, as opposed to good versus evil. But at the same time, through all of that, I thought it was just very odd, even with all the context and that we have right now, that Zephyia was just so willing to help your party at the end. I guess they sort of give some reasoning for it that is kind of logical, but I don't know, considering everything, I don't know, maybe it would have made more sense to have her be a little more hesitant, or I don't know, it just still felt off for me for some reason. I don't know. And once again, in their dying moments, we get a little justification, which helps ease a little bit of that, but it's still not completely away, I guess. The next mission was kind of a flashback where we sort of see how Lumera and Alir met. And once again, that was something that in the last flashback I felt a little weird about, and very similar to the last mission. I mean, it makes more sense now, but I don't know, it's still not sitting the best. Maybe it's because I just sort of have higher expectations, given some of the other incredible, background stories we've gotten from characters in Fire Emblem, but it is what it is. I mean, I guess it's something to give a little more context between their connection. And then the last mission before the final one, it's you fight corrupted Lumera, and that goes pretty much how you would expect it overall in terms of story. I guess maybe it is a little weird to see her have less control over that than Alir did when thinking about it a little more, but I wasn't happy about how much control Alir had anyway, so I feel like what we got out of Lumera was maybe more of kind of where I wished they went with Alir. I guess you could make the argument, though, that Lumera was corrupted longer, and maybe that's why, too. But yeah, have the final map opened. We have to go to the Somnial, rooftop for it. For some reason, I'm surprised they didn't just have it on the world map or whatever, but yeah, I'm planning to do the Fel Xenologue next, and then when I get all of those new units, I'm going to do the rest of the DLC missions and then the final mission. I'm actually not necessarily planning another playthrough, at least not anytime soon. I was originally thinking about it because I just kind of forgot I was going to have the secondary team so that I can still sort of experience the characters who didn't make it to the A team. I don't know, it's kind of weird because it's like in Three Houses and Fates, you had multiple other routes, so you're going to keep coming back in that, at least if you're like me. But here, it's a little relieving to not have to keep going, I guess, that long, but I kind of wish it was a little longer. I wouldn't mind doing, another, half route to get, or just have a little more time with some of the characters to build up supports a little more, and just build them overall with different skills and levels a little longer, but not necessarily enough for a full other playthrough, especially when, you don't have exclusive characters, story, maps, and that like you would in another one of the more recent games, like Three Houses and Fates. So, I don't know, I guess the direction is a little bittersweet. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get right to the DLC, because like I said, I took a little break and I'm sort of doing some other stuff now. I definitely plan to dive into it as soon as I can, within a couple weeks, hopefully. And then when I get back to this point where there's only one map left, who knows what sort of motivation I'll have then. Or if I'll keep procrastinating like I did this time, but we'll get there eventually. We've definitely come too far not to.